What's going on? What's going on, people? It's another edition of the ATL 3 Style Podcast. Today we are live. We are live. We are live. Got a lot to talk about. Got a lot to say today. Before I get any further, I'm going to pass it off to my co-host over here, man. What's going on? Bang!
What's up, Leo? Leo, how you feeling, brother? All the way over here on the south side, man, checking in. Cold. Just just checking in.
But I made itself land, boy.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, brother.
Man, listen, man, we're going to have a good time today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, man, as we always do, man. Atlanta sports is what we do. But before we get too far off into it, Banks, man, let's talk about our brother over there, man, out there at Eastlands Woodworking, man. Let everybody know about our brother Phil out there, man.
Yes, sir. Check out Eastland Woodworking Company. Our brother Phil out there taking care of your woodworking needs. Anything from your favorite team, something that you want personalized, ashtray, a coaster, something, a plaque on the wall. Um, Hit my boy up, hit that QR code. This is an example right here. He will hook you up. I need to holler at him too. I keep saying that. I need to go ahead and get my stash in, my orders in, so I can collect a lot of personalized of yours truly, Mr. Banks here.
He trying to get everything personalized, get ready, man. Yeah, you got to get some new gear, man. You got to get some new stuff from my boy Phil. Shout him out, man. Like I said, I purchased some stuff from him, man. He did some Divine Nine stuff for me. Still didn't get the pick out, but I get them up here momentarily. So forgive me for that. But like I said, if you're looking for some Divine Nine gear, if you're looking for anything like my boy Banks just showed, coasters, whatever, man, he got you covered. Hit that QR code. We'll try to put it up at the end of the show again, and you can try to get some stuff off his Estes page. And if you don't see anything on there, man, hit him up. Let him know what you want, man. He does good work, man. He can pretty much, you dream it up, you think it up, he can pretty much do it. All right, Banks, man. Shout out to our boy Derrico, man, who's I don't know, he might pop in tonight. I don't know. He got some other stuff going on. He was with us on the last show. You missed us on the last show, so now we bring you in today to get into it and talk about a little Atlanta sports. Before we start talking about Atlanta sports, we'll talk about something that just happened on last night, Banks, the national championship, man. National championship, college football has ended. Season is now over for college football. I don't know about you, but I always get a little depressed at this time of the year, man, because I know now it's going to be, several months before we get college football popping again. Indiana took on Miami down in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, whatever you want to say, Hard Rock last night, and it didn't disappoint. Indiana runs the table, and they are now the national championships, man. The national champions. Indiana Hoosiers, that Crimson and Cream, came down from the Indiana. They did their thing, man. Mendoza went out. They did it. They the national champs. As much as I wanted to doubt them, Banks, they did it. They did it, man. Indiana, of all teams in college football, are the national champs. If you looked at the gauntlet that was the college football playoffs, they are now standing at the top of the mountain, man. How you feel about that?
I mean, absolutely thrilled about it. To be honest with you, man, they went 15-0. Listen, we know some things about being undefeated all the way through. Congratulations, Indiana. I mean, you was known for basketball. Now you're known for football. I sat there and watched that whole entire game, and it, like you said, didn't disappoint. That Mendoza guy. I was, yelling at the TV, and everybody was getting annoyed with me. That's Las Vegas Raiders quarterback right there, because he is going number one. If you don't know, you know now. He is going number one in the draft this April. Las Vegas Raiders, you are on the clock, and there's your boy right there putting on the show.
Hey, man.
Good
Hey.
show, good show.
And I know somebody that did disappoint. That's none other than our man Carson Beck over there on the other side, man. Listen, oh man, how can I put this, bro? I mean,
Womp, womp.
all year I thought that. Well, not all year. I say when the playoffs started, Miami's defense had been coming up big time for him, and Beck had not been letting them down. He had been doing just enough to help them get through, all the way till they got to the championship game. Last night, man, had a chance to possibly tie or take the lead, in the final seconds, last drive of the game. And he came up through that pick, man, and it was all over, man. We saw a lot of Carson Beck, obviously, being Georgia fans, so we know what he's kind of about. And I know a lot of Georgia fans are probably smiling ear to ear right now after seeing him throw that throw that pick last night on the final drive. But hey man, he had a career. A s- I don't know. Some people say good career. Some people say mediocre career. Whatever. He will be playing on Sundays, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know when he's going to get picked in the draft. He won't be number one, obviously, like my man Mendoza, who's going to be going to the Raiders. Shout out to Raiders, man. Y'all have got a quarterback to see what y'all can do. Y'all got to find a coach first. Um, but yeah, man. Shout out to everybody that was down there in Miami and everybody that tuned in to watch that national championship game. Banks, look, man, I don't want to beat around the bush, man. We got a lot to talk about when it comes to Atlanta sports today. And we're just gonna go ahead and jump into it, man. And we got a lot to say surrounding the whole change here in Atlanta, and we're talking specifically about the Atlanta Falcons. If you all didn't know, if you were living under a rock, um, on the last podcast we talked about, of course, the Falcons looking for a new coach. Banks, obviously, Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot are out, so he's looking for a new coach and a GM. Insert Matt Ryan. He's now the president of the Atlanta Falcons in the coaching search. Has now ended. But before we talk about the coach, it's a little something I want to get off my chest, Banks, and I don't know if you want to expand on it as well. But I'm gonna talk about this fan base a little bit, man, because we're fans, right? Banks, you consider yourself a big fan of these Atlanta teams, right?
Absolutely.
And you,
I was born into this. I didn't have to go around and figure out what team I want to root on or cheer, whatever you have. It was instilled in me as a child. So that goes back some years, and I'm not telling you my age either. So it goes back some years.
it does. Listen, I just want to speak as I feel like I'm a good representative of the Atlanta fan base here, in this city. And Banks, I will say that you're one as well. But there are a lot of people posing as Atlanta fans, Falcons fans, Hawks fans, Braves fans, whatever, that I don't think actually, I don't know, Banks. I don't really think they're the best part of this Atlanta fan base. We get a lot of slack anyway in the national news and in the media for not having quote unquote great fans. But some of these people, they don't their takes for whatever reason are crazy. And I'm talking about a lot of people out there on social media, or maybe some of your coworkers at your job. I don't know, but I know social media has been run amok this past weekend with fans of Atlanta screaming that they are not necessarily, um I don't know, for lack of a better term, with what these organizations here are doing in the city, and therefore some crazy reasons. Just to get a little bit into it, Banks, and I'm not gonna hide it. This is a city where we have a large African American population that support these teams, right? And that's no secret. I think that we've talked about this on several podcasts that, outside of possibly maybe what the Washington Commanders, that the Atlanta Falcons probably have the biggest African American fan base in all of the NFL. With that being said, I want to be the first person to say, Banks, and I'll let you talk about this, is that I love my teams. I love the Falcons. And at the end of the day, I love the Falcons, Hawks, United, and the Braves. And at the end of the day, I want to see these teams win championships. That's what I want. As a fan, I want to see championships. All the other stuff is secondary to us winning the championship. That's what I want to see. Like most fans of teams, you want to see your team win championships. That's what you want to see. So there have been a lot of other things, a lot of other conspiracies going on, and we'll get into it here in just a minute. But Banks, I don't know if you want to comment on you being a fan and what you want to see most from your team.
It's You just said it. I mean, championships. I mean, I want to see my teams do well. It's not just going to these games and being entertained. I want to see some something I can be proud of. I'm proud of my city. Been here all my life. It's not too many people right now that can really say that I've been in the ATL since birth. That's almost like a rarity now. So yes, it's besides the city, it's something I can be proud of, and I am proud of my city. So yes, a championship would be nice. You know, Watching the Braves, they did it twice. That feeling was I can't describe it because we are envied throughout the whole baseball league. It's just the Braves. Braves. They're not. Yeah, okay. Well, we got hardware, so I mean, and wherever we go, we're gonna bring our fans with us. So I mean, it's I don't have an issue with that. Football, basketball, Atlanta United. Shout out to Atlanta Dream. Everything in Atlanta, I want to be proud of. So yeah, I feel what you're saying. Like that's the main goal is to win a championship. So I
Top
mean,
priority. Top priority is to win a championship. Some other, I guess, a lot of other people they have their fantasy or their dream about what they would like to see. And I don't think the championship is a priority for them, but we'll get into that here in just a second. But as fans that I feel like we represent, Atlanta very well when it comes to our fandom, we want to see championships, man. That's the number one priority. And then there are other things that go on and on and on when it comes to that after the championship. And we can definitely discuss this, man. Shout out to our boy Higgins, man, watching us live over there on YouTube, man, showing us much love. So listen, let's get into it here, Banks. Let's talk about it. The Atlanta Falcons, like I just alluded to, we're searching for a new coach. Come to find out on Saturday night, somebody was at Arthur Blank's house. He was cooking steaks. Then all of a sudden, I don't know where you were or what you were doing, Banks, about 9 o'clock, my phone went nuts. I got all kind of texts. Hey, you see this? What's going on? Hey, man, can you tell me, is this true? What's happening? What's the deal? And I looked at all the reports, and I'm seeing Kevin Stefanski is now the new coach of the Atlanta Falcons. And there was a lot of emotions. I think we started texting each other, and a lot of other people started texting and just kind of going back and forth just briefly, and we'll get into breaking down the whole hire, Banks, in just a second. But when you saw this news come up on your phone, your first reaction when you saw that Kevin Stefanski is now the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons?
I was speechless. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I wasn't happy about it. I text you guys, if I'm not mistaken, this moment that I saw it. I was, I what I do is when I see like news about a certain sport, like a breaking news, anything, I try to check a secondary source to see if it's really true. And unfortunately, I was on social media, and it just that millisecond, it was all down my timeline. So it was true. So I had to, tell you guys first, you and Derico, I had to, express how I felt. You know, I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised. I mean, naturally, that wasn't the guy I wanted. Um, I was kind of disappointed. I thought we would at least try and kind of like not rush into it. I mean, I hear the people talking about you didn't have to. We had to do what we got to get our guy, and we it would have been slim pickings if we didn't. Well, I mean, okay, so we're just gonna discard all the rest of those candidates out there, and Stefanski is the one. But besides Harbaugh, it wasn't him. It was him. It was Stefanski. I just can't wrap my brain around that. I can't believe that for 1 second that was the guy. Like, oh my God, we had to get him. So I mean,
Yeah, I had a similar knee-jerk reaction, Banks. I'm not even gonna lie. There was a range of emotions. The first thing I did was cuss. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not gonna hold you on that. I cussed. I was like, what the? And then, like I said, I think you started texting, and a couple other my people was texting and asking me how I felt about it. And I'm telling you, I still feel the same way about it today. It's kind of like, man, I'm with you, Banks, man. I thought that this was going to be a thorough coaching search. I thought that we were going to at least, like you said, maybe take our time. But I want to kind of break this down and look at it from the perspective of the Atlanta Falcons, because that's what we're going to do. And also, we're going to look at it from a fan perspective as well as we go through this here over the next 30 or 45 minutes or so. So, Banks, let's look at the timeline of this. We started interviewing head coaching candidates. We interviewed several coaching candidates. Kubiak, we interviewed, if I'm not mistaken, it was several guys here. You can name them off here if you got them in front of you here. My phone just went out. But I want to say, was it Hayfie, the defensive coordinator from Green Bay? I want to also, I think we interviewed Jim Harbaugh, obviously, and there was some confusion in that with us interviewing Jim Harbaugh as well. We all ultimately know that he went up to the New York Giants. And we did interview Kevin Stefanski initially, and then we found out he was coming in for a second round of interviews. So, Banks, I'm going to pass it back over to you here. Wasn't my first choice either. He wasn't, but he was on my short list because I knew that a lot of people were high on him, and I started reading a lot of different things, and I found it very interesting. I said, this could be a guy to watch. It could be. I thought it was going to be a dark horse to watch, but the key thing for Stefanski is that he had head coaching experience. Now we know that Jim Harbaugh, who was everybody's probably first pick, was off the board. Now enter Matt Ryan being the president. Do you think first priority was trying to find somebody with previous head coaching experience, knowing that the candidates that were available, it wasn't a lot of them that had previous head coach experience? Do you think this was a top priority on Matt Ryan's list?
Obviously, it was because I think that was the whole outlier that we have to get a coach that's coached before. You know, um, I don't think a lot of people was too high on any other like Robert Sala, if that's I'm saying his name correctly. Um, you had McDaniels out there. I mean, he just came from the Dolphins. Um, it's another name that escapes me. The old Cowboys coach, but we didn't even interview him.
Mike McCarthy. Mike
So
McCarthy.
McCarthy, right? So I mean, if that was such a big, that was the one we got to get a coach that coached before. Okay, I thought that was you was kind of like sit back and see what's out there, but then you jumped on the first. It's almost like me that you got to the first guy you got to after Harbaugh and said he wanted to come here, and then you like, yes, let's do it. And it just felt kind of rushed to me. And that's why, you said he was on your short list. Well, he wasn't on my list at all. I didn't look anything towards Cleveland Browns. When you're talking about somebody that has some kind of success, and then like you said, after we got him, I did a, kind of research on, he was two-time coach of the year, 2 separate years, wasn't even consecutive years. It was, he would think of 2000 and 2003, if I'm not mistaken. And it was like, okay, well, what happened between those years? What was the issue? And well, he had about 18 quarterbacks and they all failed under him. And that turned me off. I was like, at that point, I didn't want to read no more. I didn't care no more. It's like, in my eyes, you're a failure, and then here
Yeah,
he is, he's, about to rock, black and red. So,
I mean, yeah. I mean, when I looked into it a little bit as well, Banks, I did see a lot of negative things, right, coming from Cleveland. Obviously, we do know the positive takes is that he was 2-time head coach of the year, which a lot of people want to dismiss, and I'm not going to dismiss it. I'm going to give him credit for that because I don't think that's something to sneeze at. You know what I'm saying? I mean, being NFL head coach of the year, especially with an organization like the Cleveland Browns, it's almost like a magic trick. Like, how do you do that? And let's talk about the organization that he was with for just a moment before we start talking about him coming to Atlanta. The Cleveland Browns have been a train wreck of an organization. And I'm not going to say that the Falcons aren't a dysfunctional organization because the Falcons have been traditionally a dysfunctional organization. But I will say this much, and this is no shade to any of my Cleveland Browns fans. The Cleveland Browns have been a dysfunctional organization for as long as I can remember. I cannot remember it being the time that there was ever any dysfunction in Cleveland. He came from an organization I feel like there was a big disconnect between the ownership, the GM, and him as a head coach. So with that being said, I really don't. I'm still trying to figure out, and I would love to hear how did he even become successful there? Because we've seen several. Look, we even seen a 6-time Super Bowl coach in Cleveland lose his job there, and then now he goes to another team, and now he wins 6 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots. Obviously, everything happened, the stars, the moon, and things aligned for him to do that. But I'm just saying it goes to show you that there's a lot of dysfunction in Cleveland. Like you said, the roundabout quarterbacks, the personnel. But like I said, he found a way to be successful there a couple of years up there in Cleveland. So let's not discredit the fact that he came from a very dysfunctional organization up there in Cleveland, man. And now he comes to an organization, and like I said, a lot of people are going to say that the Falcons organization is dysfunctional. They can't get it together. Arthur Blank is all over the place. But I will say this much, Banks. I know he wasn't on your short list, but now given the fact that he's with an organization like the Falcons now, does this now give him an opportunity to maybe, wash away some of the stuff that was going on in Cleveland, have a fresh start, and maybe be able to, put all that behind him and get a fresh start here in Atlanta and see where this goes, right?
I mean, it's always an opportunity to have a fresh start in a brand new setting. But if his issue was not having a quarterback, ta-da, you don't have one now either. So you're in my statement, you're out the fire pan into the fire. So I mean, what are you going to do if you can't develop quarterbacks where you came from to come here to do what? And Michael Penix, shout out to you, sir, don't even know when you're coming back. So that means you got to bring in somebody to kind of be a bridge. What are we doing? Like, seriously, what are you going to do to bring anything stability in that position? I'm not talking about Bijan. I'm not talking about receivers, defense. No, I'm talking about the quarterback, the most important position on your team. And you can't even get that right. I mean, then what are we doing? We sit spinning our wheels, and we're gonna be right there talking about this again. Hope I'm wrong. Hope I'm wrong in the next 3 years. So
Well, yeah, well, obviously, yeah. So there are some question marks. But let's be real about this, Banks. I mean, every team that lost the coach outside of a couple, because we just lost McDermott, I think today, or was it today, or did they just let go of McDermott up in Buffalo? I'm not for sure my time. I think it was the day they just let go of McDermott up in Buffalo. Let's look at every single team that just let go of a coach. You're absolutely right. Quarterback is the most important position that you have to get right. But you got the Raiders, you got the Arizona Cardinals, you got the Miami Dolphins, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. There are only two coaching positions that were available that you would say that you're pretty much set at quarterback. You would say the Baltimore Ravens, obviously, and now the Buffalo Bills. And there's some influx with Baltimore right now as to whether Lamar is going to be there because they don't know who their new coach is going to be up there in Baltimore with the departure of Jim Harbaugh. So now let's go back to talk about Atlanta. I do think that there were some talking points that were had with Stefanski and the brain trust. And when I say brain trust, that's Matt Ryan, and it looks like Josh Blank, Arthur Blank, and Greg Beatles were there for this second meeting, that dinner that they had at Arthur's house. Kevin Stefanski probably presented a big case for what his contingency plan would be with quarterback moving forward. Obviously, Michael Penix is here on a rookie contract, and I think that they made it clear that they want Michael to be a part of the future here in Atlanta. But what do they do now? Like you said, Banks, what do they do in the interim? Because Mike might not be back for the beginning of the season. Well, here's one option, and I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion. Kirk Cousins is still on your roster right now. Kirk Cousins, guess who he played for in Minnesota? Kevin Stefanski. Who knows Kevin Stefanski's offense? Kirk Cousins. So this could be something that Atlanta looks to and say, hey, you know what? If Kirk is willing to do this, he already is familiar with Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski said, hey, I can work with Kirk and I can still bring on Michael Penix along as well. Maybe this is something that we decide to do. So maybe that's what he possibly pitched to the Falcons' brain trust. Obviously, the quarterback position is going to be a hard thing for them to do. Is to find somebody that's going to move this franchise forward. I still have some faith in Michael Penix, and we'll talk about that a little later because we still hadn't talked about the personnel and what's going to happen to turn over this personnel. Obviously, now that we have a head coach and we're looking for a GM, we're going to have to talk about the personnel aspect. But Banks, I think that's maybe what he possibly pitched, is that he could possibly, Kirk Cousins is still serviceable. I know a lot of Falcons fans are going to turn their nose up. I see you now over there just really kind of seething about seeing Kirk Cousins back here another year. But I mean, he gives you a veteran option that knows your head coach is coming in.
Well, he's going to cost you $67 million. So you're telling me, okay, fine, you keep Kirk Cousins, $67 million. Guess what? You're not sitting back down. Sorry, Penix, you're just not. I'm not putting you out there just to bring along Michael Penix for $67 million. Thank you, Terry Fontenot. But I'm just not doing that. I mean, if we're gonna do one or the other, if we're gonna pay him, fine, pay him. But he's not sitting down again. I don't care what he does at that point. You know, you got a quarterback that's uncertain to even be healthy when he comes back. Now we're talking about his injury recovery and his mental state. So now, what are you're sitting here, we're hoping that, Michael Penix is the quarterback of the future. He's the franchise quarterback, and he's on a rookie deal but you have this 67 expensive quarterback and Kirk Cousins, who supposedly supposed to have been cut before March 13th to save us some money for the cap space. But now that you're saying that, that might be an option. But my thing is, if you do that, he is your quarterback this year. There is no sitting down. There is no Michael Penix. You coming in week 5? No, there's not. Because guess what? I'm paying you $67 million, and yet you just cannot sit down again. Listen, I know Stefanski had a plan coming in, and I'm willing to hear it. At this point, what do we got to lose? We just came from that train wreck and Zach Robinson. What else can he do that Zach Robinson did? You know, enlighten me,
Listen, Banks.
enlighten me. I mean,
So
but I
listen,
tell
Banks.
you what, for $67 million, that's my quarterback.
Well, yeah, obviously, listen. So the other option or alternative is obviously we don't have a first round pick, and we wouldn't waste another first round pick on quarterback, in my opinion. Anyway, I don't think you go second round with another quarterback pick. But here's the thing: shout out to my boy Bobby, and shout out to my boy Stokes, man. Stokes, who obviously alluded to the fact that we do have Kirk Cousins still here on the roster. We'll talk a little bit later about the draft here coming up momentarily, Bobby. But the thing about this quarterback position is you're absolutely right, Banks. Whoever we go with week 1, I think that is going to legitimately be the starter for probably the entire season, barring injury or whatever the case may be. I think this puts Penix in a very peculiar situation because, I mean, you're not supposed to lose your job, obviously, default to injury, but we know for a fact week 1 that Penix there's probably a 75% chance that he's not going to be ready week 1. He tore his ACL in November. He just had surgery. It takes a while to rehab and get him back. So yes, Banks, I am with you on the fact that whoever starts week 1 will probably be the long-term quarterback for the season of 2026. That's what we're going to look at. So obviously, yes, we have to hear this plan from Stefanski because the other alternative you have is to go into what I like to call the quarterback labor pool. And these are going to be the guys, and you know what I'm talking about, Banks. We had these discussions all the time. Is you say, hey, if we cut Kirk Cousins, he's not willing to play here, he doesn't want to be here. Then we go into this pool of and there's no shade to these guys, the Jameis Winstons, the Malik, you got Malik Willis that'll probably be out there, the Justin Fields. You have all these conversations. What's the quarterback that was playing behind Mac Jones in San Francisco? He'll probably be available. Don't know what the situation is going to be with Tua, but that's what you have to work with. So those are some of the things that they're going to have to look at and they're going to have to work through. So yes, Banks, the quarterback position is going to be something that you're going to have to deal with, but it's like this here. Short term now, and you got a short term goal, you got a medium range goal, and you got a long term goal. Obviously, the quarterback situation, you have to look at that as something that you'll need long term. But in the interim, short term, I think you got to find a way to get to the playoffs because there is no cushion. We didn't talk about that at the Banks. There is no cushion for Stefanski, and I think that was probably made clear when he came in. Is that hey, we're in win mode now. I say this all the time, and I hate to say this, but we're not a talented team, but we have talent. So what can you do to make this a talented team? There's no cushion, Stefanski. Who's ever at quarterback. If Antoine Banks is at quarterback next year, you have to make this work, and we have to make the playoffs. So that's what I think Stefanski knows, and that's what I think the brain trust told him. Is like, hey, we have talent. Can you do this? Can you maximize and get the most out of it? When I started looking at some of the teams he had in Cleveland, he had some similar talent there. Like you said, it was a carousel of quarterbacks, but he was able to, like I said, take the Browns, like I said, David Copperfield style, to the playoffs and actually win a doggone playoff game. Something that the Falcons, mind you, has not done in 8 years. So, like I said, Kevin Stefanski knows that this is going to be find a way. I hate to say it. Find a way to make it to the playoffs. So obviously, Kevin Stefanski is in, and so I want to talk about some of the other people that are going to be joining him on his coaching staff that we know of right now. One of the big things is, and I think that there's going to be some mixed feelings about this amongst the Falcons fan base, is Jeff Ulbrich. Jeff Ulbrich is now coming back to be the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons in that regard. Atlanta Falcons had a very decent, I'm not going to say they were, all pro or stellar, but they had a very decent defense. They did wonders compared to what they've done in previous seasons, especially regarding the pass rush. Still need a little more talent, a little more depth on that defense. Your thoughts on retaining Jeff Ulbrich as the defensive coordinator, Bank?
Well, there's nothing wrong with continuity. I feel like the sacks, I think the most sacks in franchise history, if I'm not mistaken, correct? I think it was what the final number was 58 or something like that, 57, 58, something like that. Okay, yeah, I'll take that. Coming from dead last to second in the league, that's a huge jump. I had no, my expectation wasn't, being second in the league in sacks. If you would have told me that last year, this time last year, I would have laughed in your face, and you know that, Leo. You basically did the impossible. I don't know if it was because the D line coach, it was a power collection of everybody, and hopefully we can keep not just Olbrich, but the entire defense, position coaches. I think they go hand in hand. Um Overall though, for the defense, it was a couple of games, man. I was like, nah. We lost games where we all do is make one stop and we didn't. One of the games that come to mind is that second Carolina Panthers game, and we just had to muck that up somehow, some way, and then we end up losing that game. But overall, though, I mean, yes, the sacks were nice and beautiful, but I think that will probably change. That was, in my opinion, is probably a nose stuffer in that middle of that defense. Somebody to stuff that run, to kind of put a cherry on top. And a second corner too. We need a lot, bro. I hear people say, this is a talented team. I guess, but we got a lot of holes in this talented team. I can go position by position where we need help in.
Well, guess what,
And
Banks? Guess what, Banks? Guess what? We have a new GM that's going to come in. We don't know yet who that will be, but we have a new GM that's going to come in and hopefully help us fill some of those holes. And I want to get back and circle back around to something about Kevin Stefanski and him being hired by the Falcons. And I think this man had something to do with it as well. The fact that he was on board with bringing Jeff Ulbrich back. I've talked to several people about this hire and about specifically Jim Harbaugh and why the Falcons may or may not were able to, court Jim Harbaugh and get him to come here to Atlanta. We don't know if Jim Harbaugh wanted to clean house completely. I think that it was something to be said with the brain trust here with Matt Ryan and Arthur Blank that they, like you said, they wanted to keep some continuity. They saw they had some success on defense, and they wanted to have a coach come in to be open to keeping Jeff, here, because like I was a big fan of Jeff. Obviously, yeah, there were several games that the defense couldn't come up with that stop. But I mean, that's going to be the whole entire NFL, man. I mean, you talk about there are generational defenses that can do that, but I think most defenses are good in the NFL, man. But it's a bend don't break type of style. And yes, you do need somebody to come up and make a play from time to time. But you're right, Banks. Some of the personnel, some of the depth that we need, we got a new GM coming in, and we're going to see which way they want to go. Like you said, if we want to get stout in the middle of the defense, but which moves me to another coach that I want to talk about here, since we're talking about trenches, is I just saw the announcement today and I'm excited about this one, that the Atlanta Falcons brought on Bill Callahan as the offensive line coach. So now we have a veteran, well-respected offensive line coach that has produced several Pro Bowl offensive linemen. So this tells me that they're serious about trying to get traction with this offense. And one of the great things about, I think, Stefanski is we already want to run a wide zone system. We already have a phenomenal running back. Bringing Callahan in, I think, is going to shore up that offensive line and make us have an identity again where we can just roll grade and run the ball right down your throat, man. So I don't know about you, Banks, but I was kind of happy when I saw Bill Callahan come here as the offensive line coach.
well, guess what? Bijan, get ready, brother. You about to run. You about to run free, as if he wasn't doing that already. But yeah, I think that's a good hire. I think the offensive line is going to get a shot in the arm with that one. I really didn't get down, into position coaches like this, like I am now. I guess it's because how important it is. But you didn't mention anything. I know you talked about what to hire, but we still don't have an offensive coordinator. Supposedly Stefanski is supposed to call his plays, I guess, but I have that's another reason why I wasn't too high on this hire in the first place, because in the past 2 years he gave up his play calling duties for this guy named, I think his name Timothy Reeves, I want to say. And it's they say he's worse than Zach Robinson, and people are frowning from as they can't frown any harder on their faces when they talk about this guy Reeves. I don't want him no parts of this damn franchise. If you're gonna bring him back, and that offense was 31st in the league the last past 2 years, excuse me, 31st and 32nd in the league, your offense.
So
15
look,
points a game, and you're bringing that with you. Okay, no, thank you. I
well,
don't
wait.
want no parts of that.
So look, Banks. Listen, this is something that I just popped up, and this might be something of interest. I don't know where to go, but we'll continue to watch it. Obviously, we have not hired an offense coordinator, and I think that is because there is probably a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things going on. We were set on Ulbrich. We knew that much, but now we need an offense coordinator. I just popped on my phone from Tom Pelissero, the NFL, that Mike McDaniel, who was fired from the Miami Dolphins, just withdrew his he just withdrew his name from the Browns coaching search. I mean, I think Jim Schwartz just interviewed for a second time with the Browns, but Mike McDaniels has now withdrawn his name for the head coaching candidacy in Cleveland. So that's something that we might want to watch. I know a lot of, once again, it's a touchy subject with a lot of previous coaches that have been here in Atlanta. But I told a couple of people before that I wouldn't mind Mike McDaniel coming here and being an offensive coordinator. I mean, in my opinion, he comes from the Shanahan tree. A lot of people like this Shanahan tree or this McVay tree you like to talk about when it comes to talking about offenses. He's kind of like-minded in such as, how Stefanski was when he was in Minnesota, play action heavy. They do a lot of things similar. So that's something to watch, Banks. Mike McDaniels now there's still other head coaching jobs available, but I just find it interesting that he just pulled his name from either the Browns are just that big of a crap show up there, or he just said, you know what, maybe there's another option, or somebody just tapped me on my shoulder and said, hey, can you take a look at this? And we might be seeing him possibly, I don't know, coming here. But that's another name that you have to look for, offense coordinator. Like I said, there were rumors that he was going to bring Tommy. I'm sorry, I forget his name. I know he used to be a coach at Alabama as well, but there were rumors that he was going to bring him along, but that chatter kind of stopped. I hadn't heard anything about him bringing him along, and who knows? Now maybe we're trying to connect some dots here.
He's the front runner right now, so whatever for what it's worth. I mean, front runner. I guess I'm hoping he's no runner because he only to be near my team. So, yeah. I listen. Everybody that knows me, I went to work, and even the day afterwards, people talk to me, call me. I don't like to hire. No, I do not. I could be totally wrong, Leo. I could be totally wrong. People who are watching me right now, I can have an egg on my face come this time next year. We might be talking about we're in the playoffs. We won a division, or we're a wild card berth. Could be, absolutely. You absolutely right. But at the same time, I can not help but see what just last season, guys. It wasn't that long ago where we keep blaming the organization in Cleveland Browns. I mean, to me, you mean to tell me that Stefanski had no say there? Absolutely no say. So he was not a part of that dysfunction at all. He was not a part of it. He was, y'all do y'all thing over there. I'm gonna try to keep turning my thumbs over here and calling plays. No, guys. That whole dysfunction was a collective thing. Okay, from the owner down. I'm trying to give it benefit of the doubt. I'm trying my hardest to hope that maybe the football gods will say, you know what, it didn't work here, but you're going to be the man here. You've seen it before. Hopefully it'll happen to us.
If it was collective, Banks, I want to say this much, and I'm not taking up for this man by no means, but at some point, as a head coach, there was, I think at some point last year after the draft, there were 5 quarterbacks, if I'm not mistaken, apart in that quarterback room up there in Cleveland. As a head coach, I don't ask you for 5 quarterbacks. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not taking up for Kevin Stefanski. There's no way I can see Kevin Stefanski saying, hey, guys, I need 5 quarterbacks. There's no way. I think that level of dysfunction, yeah, collectively, he may have had a hand in it. There are a lot of things that he probably could do differently. And I'm pretty sure he's going to explain that in his presser or somewhere down the line. But we still cannot absolve the fact that when you work for an organization that is bad all the way around, yeah, it's a possibility they can muck everything up. We've seen this happen several times, not just in football, not just in professional sport. We've seen this happen in Fortune 500 companies. It could be done, Banks. And I'm not saying that he didn't have a hand in this, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that I don't think that, some of these decisions that were made, that whatever he said, they cared, because he could have went in there and said, you know what, I don't want 5 quarterbacks. And they said, we don't care what you want. We're going to draft Dylan Gabriel, and then we're going to turn around and draft Shedeur Sanders. And you just make it work. I mean, they're your boss. They're giving you a check. What you going to say? No, I'm going to walk. I'm going to quit. I mean, obviously, that's what the conversation that was had there. I mean, and let's be real about this. While we're talking about the quarterback situations, we made a dumb decision in signing a old quarterback in Kirk Cousins to a lot of money. But let's be real. Let's not go Cleveland. Deshaun Watson is stealing money from the Cleveland Browns right now. You're not going to sit up here and we're just going to ignore the fact that, and yeah, we may have had a possibility of trying to sign them. But, when Cleveland said, hold my beer, and did what they did and gave that man $240 million, you got to tell me now. If you look, hindsight is always 20/20, right? But Banks, that was not a good decision either. That wasn't a good decision either. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not absolving him from anything. I'm not defending him, man. But that is a train wreck of an organization, man. They can't get out of the way. Their owner, they can't get out of the way. I listened to some sports talk radio up there in Cleveland, man, and they hate that man. They hate the owner of the Cleveland Browns up there. They do not like him at all. So there's a lot of stuff going on with their organization, man. But, that's neither here nor there. Let's keep on moving, man, and talk a little bit more about these Atlanta Falcons and what they got going on. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Banks, the presser for Kevin Stefanski is going to be Thursday. When is the presser going to be? I'm not for sure exactly. I know they announced it. It's going to be probably sometime this week that they're going to announce the presser for him coming up here at Mercedes-Benz. And we'll talk about a few more things with this organization that I want to address as well, and I think you want to address as well, too. What are you looking for Kevin Stefanski to say at his presser when they introduce him as the Atlanta Falcons head coach? What are some of the if you could be a person sitting in the audience and you were given the opportunity to ask him one question or a couple of questions, what would a question be that you would ask Kevin Stefanski by him being the new coach here in Atlanta?
Why do you suck? I'm kidding. I don't know. Besides the 5 quarterbacks he had on his roster this last year, after your coach of the year, I mean, you went through all these different quarterbacks right after that. I'm not even talking about Shedeur and the rest of them. I'm talking about, you went through a list of quarterbacks. Came and left. Not one quarterback was successful for you. Not one. So what are you doing to coach up the most important position on your team? You're not. What are you not doing? Because you can't tell me every single quarterback just don't get it. And at some point you got to hit lightning in a bottle somewhere. And I guess you kind of did when you went to the playoffs, but I don't know. I need to know some more about you, because you can't tell me everybody that came through that place just said, you know what, this is where my career is going to die. I'm not going to play anymore.
I agree. Up, I mean, you got to look at you had Joe Flacco there. Obviously, now, this is going to be very. When I bring this name up, this is going to be an interesting take for me. Yeah, Baker Mayfield there. I'm not saying Baker Mayfield is a great quarterback, but he's a serviceable quarterback. Now, if I'm Kevin Stefanski, maybe I can deal with Baker, but the Browns organization said, no, we don't want Baker anymore. We need another quarterback, and they ship him off. Baker's been doing well in Tampa. I mean, obviously they haven't won a Super Bowl or anything, man, but he's been a very serviceable quarterback down there. Like I said, some of these things that you allude to, and like I said, once again, I have to lead off with, I'm not absolving him of anything, because yes, he could have done a better job of getting these quarterbacks ready or getting somebody better into this system. But like I said, once again, I keep going back to this. When you're working in chaos, man, sometimes these things are hard as hell to do. But, yeah, maybe it was up to him to find somebody and say, hey, Browns, leave him alone. This is my guy. I can make it work. Maybe. Or maybe the Browns just were like, you know what? Nah, we don't
It
like
was
this guy. We're
obviously
tired of
he
him. Let's
didn't
get
do
somebody
that.
else.
So it was obviously he didn't do that. So yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, but like I said, your boss tells you, hey, we're going in another direction. What are you going to tell them? What are you going to tell them? And they say, hey, man, we're going to draft Bozo the Clown from Montana State. He's going to be our next quarterback. Deal with it. What are you going to say? You're going to walk? You're going to leave? You're under contract. You can quit. You won't get paid. But those are the things that you have to look at when you look at, some of these situations that these people are in. And I get it. Yes, it's hard to say, what did you do, and point the finger at him. And I'm pretty sure that I'm hoping he's going to be accountable and say, hey, where it went wrong. And obviously, I'm pretty sure that he explained this to Arthur Blank and Matt Ryan as well. I want to think that Arthur Blank and Matt Ryan are smart enough to understand that this man made some mistakes. He had some faults. And he was able to explain to him his vision and plan for what he's going to do here in Atlanta. He's not at Cleveland anymore. He's not. I'm not a fan of this guy, man, but I think that this guy he presented something to them that made them feel comfortable with saying, let's give him another shot. Go ahead, man.
Do you feel that all those quarterbacks that we're talking about, do you feel like not one quarterback that came through Cleveland, he had no say in of saying, I want that guy right there? Do you feel that every single quarterback, like you said, you bring in Brozo the Clown and I want you to coach him? Okay, that might be some truth in that. But out of all of those quarterbacks, not one quarterback Stefanski had a say in. I finally find that hard to believe. I really do. I really do. Somebody that came through that organization, and it's more than 10. It was 18. I know Stefanski
It's
had.
18 quarterbacks while he was there. I got to fact check that. No, go
Listen.
ahead.
He had a say in it. He had a say in it. He had to. You cannot tell me this man did not just sit there and just let this organization just bring in what they want, and I just don't see it. I don't see that.
I didn't say. I keep saying this, Banks. I don't keep repeating myself. I say he's not absolved of the chaos. He was a part of it. You're absolutely right. But it's hard to work in chaos. Let me explain something to you, and then we'll move on. I look at an organization like the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Mike Tomlin just stepped down, obviously, as the head coach up there. You look at that organization, and you look at what they do, and you look at their vision, and you look at what they've done. Me and Derrico talked about this on the last podcast. Do you know they've only had 3 coaches in the last 50 plus years? Okay. There's a reason for that. That organization, they have figured out a system and a way to make things work. Even when they went through quarterback carousels, even when they lost Ben Roethlisberger and they brought in Aaron Rodgers and they brought in this guy, man, they were still winning. Mike Tomlin was still winning. They made it work. Then on the other hand, now you look at an organization like the Cleveland Browns, which has been complete chaos. Okay. There's just some things that, they're hard to explain. I'm not there in Cleveland. Like I said, once again, Banks, for you, I'm going to say it again. Stefanski's not absolved of everything that he did while he was there coaching. Yes, he could have made some mistakes and had a gavel with some of the coaching decisions up there. Yes. But like I said, once again, it's hard to work in chaos. Sometimes, Banks, when you working, hey, let me work. Let me work. I don't know if they let that man work up there in Cleveland. He had 2 good seasons, head coach of the year. I mean, and after that, they were just like, you know what? We want to scramble, shuffle the deck. Let's do what we can and go in another direction. And what could he have done? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he probably made some, and like I said, I think that he'll probably bring to the table and tell us what the disconnect was with him up there in Cleveland, because I'm pretty sure, and that's what I was going to get to with my question, is the first question that I will ask is what happened and where was the disconnect in Cleveland and why it didn't work there? That would be my question. So him to get it out and put it on the table so we'll be clear about it and we'll move forward. That would be my first question, obviously, because I think everybody wants to know. Everybody's speculating. Everybody's saying what they think it is. Oh, it's because they want to railroad Shedeur. He's black. Yeah, I said it. That's what, there's a lot of speculation about what happened, but, hey, I would want to get it straight from the horse's mouth, and hopefully he'll be able to tell us at the presser here coming up pretty soon. So, Banks, we're getting close to the end of this thing here, man. Want to go back around and address a couple of things that we've seen on social media and some rumors that I felt like were pretty funny. And I just wanted to get your quick takes on them before we close this thing out. So, listen, one of the things that I saw on social media and somebody brought to my attention today is that, hey, and I think you said it earlier, the Falcons, if they would have just waited, they could have had Sean McDermott. Once again, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, the hindsights. Like, I don't understand this rationale of, like you said, there is patience, but there's how would the Falcons know that McDermott was going to be available, and how would the Falcons know if McDermott is even going to coach this year or be even interested in coaching the Falcons? Banks, can you make sense of some of the logic that these people are talking about when they say the Falcons should have waited because McDermott got fired? Where's the logic in that? Help me to understand.
Well, I think, like I said, what we talked about earlier, like if this feels like a rush hire, with Stefanski, it felt like he seemed like the guy. He was the only one that said yes to Atlanta, so we just said, okay, go ahead and do it. It didn't seem like Stefanski was just that hot shot off after. He was this big hot commodity coach. Just sitting there waiting to be picked from random teams. When you talk about McDermott, you know, you're right. You don't know he will pick Atlanta. You have no clue. He might have had his eyes set for Pittsburgh. But I think a lot of people, and when I'm just going by how my opinion, what I think a lot of folks feel like why we can't just shoot our shot for it. You know, is Stefanski the best we can do that coaches don't. When you talk about coaches, they see Atlanta as a place not attractive, or is it because we don't have a quarterback solidified yet? It could be a mixture of both. I don't know. But a lot of folks felt like if you just waited, it's a couple of days. Let's put our hat in the ring for a McDermott. You just never know. If Stefanski was that guy, like you say he is, he picked us. So why this other guy can't pick us? But you just never know. Maybe he want to come down south. You just don't know. But at the same time, we would never know because we jumped the gun so quick because Stefanski was on top of our list, if you will. I, a lot of folks just feels that it feels rushed, and I'm just going by. I'm just reading I'm just feeling the room out. That's.
I mean, yeah. I was just trying to find the logic in that because let's be real. The same reports, the same outlets were reporting the fact that Stefanski had second interviews lined up with a couple other teams. He was supposed to go and get on a plane and go to Tennessee after he met with us. So I don't know. There's a sentiment that he was not wanted. There's a sentiment out there that nobody wanted Stefanski. Like he was not. I am of the belief that if the Falcons didn't hire him, that he was going to be hired as a head coach somewhere else, Banks. I don't think this man was going to stay unemployed for long. So there is some belief that if he would have left Atlanta Saturday night and went to Tennessee, that they would have locked the door and said, hey. But I guess Falcons fans are not concerned. Falcons fans just say, hey, you know what? Then that would have been a Tennessee problem because we don't want him. Obviously, he can go to Tennessee. That's fine. But the thing is, though, here's the thing. Anytime you hire somebody, you don't know what you're going to get. You have to go by what they tell you, what they present. And yeah, there is some in regards looking at what they have done in their past, and it will somewhat predict their future, but you also have to give them an opportunity under a different circumstance to see what they can do as well. So, I mean, let's not act like he was not wanted and he wasn't going to coach. Like, you know what I'm saying? If the Falcons would have let him walk, I guarantee you people, he would have been a head coach somewhere probably by the end of the week. We saw Robert Saleh get hired by the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, we just saw, like I said, Halfman, the defense coordinator, get hired by the Dolphins. These guys are getting their guys. You know what I'm saying? Slowly but surely it's coming together. You know what I'm saying? There's a couple other teams still out there looking for coaches. But I guarantee you probably sometime next week, that pool will get smaller and smaller. Now that the playoffs, we're now at the AFC and NFC championships. The race to get into position for offseason moves. These teams are going to be hiring coaches pretty quick. And I think that Stefanski would have probably, if he would have left Atlanta, would have probably been the Tennessee Titans head coach. But like you said, that would have been a Tennessee problem, would have been ours, and we could have sat there and waited for another person that somebody said to me, how come we couldn't have gone after Mike Tomlin? He would have been a great fit here in Atlanta. Atlanta needs a coach like Mike Tomlin. Once again, Banks, help me understand the logic in people thinking that we can just say, hey, Mike Tomlin, come coach us. And he say, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to come down there and coach. in Atlanta, because I get confused in my feeble brain sometimes that people think it's just as easy as making a phone call and saying, "Hey, Mike, you want to coach the Falcons?" And he say, "Sure, I'm not doing that. Let me come down and coach the Falcons. I know y'all love me down there."
Well, you got to be careful with people like that because you got to ask yourself, how much football do you watch? When you hear people talk about, and it's not like it was a secret, when he stepped down and everything, and then it came out that he's going to take a year off. Where were you when that came across the ticker? I mean, it didn't even have to come across the ticker. That was all over social media. Okay, how did you miss the fact that he's not coaching this year? And all of a sudden, people are still talking about why we didn't interview this man. At that point, you don't need to talk anymore because it's like, okay, you don't watch football enough for me to have a discussion. You don't know what you're talking about. At this point, we all know that Tomlin's not coaching anymore. You can watch TV and see that, and you still talking about Tomlin. Yeah, it would have been nice had he not said. If he said, "I want to continue coaching," whatever, it would have been nice to throw your hat in the ring for him. But you're right. Who said he would come here? It would be his choice, wherever he wants to go. It's it would be, in a perfect world, yeah, it would be cool to interview Tomlin, interview him for a second time, and he's on his way down to Atlanta to coach the Falcons. Yes, that would have been awesome. But it doesn't work that way. He has, just like Harbaugh, he went there, he interviewed with I think it was a phone interview, if I'm not mistaken. He went to New York, and I think that was it. Like, it was no other team that he's going to interview with. It was like, it was where I want to be, and that's the end of that. So
Last thing here, man, before we close this thing out, Banks, man. This one, and I'm gonna give my take on this one here as well before we close this thing out. Matt Ryan is tone deaf. This was not a good hire for the Atlanta Falcons fan base. This organization is tone deaf and will always be. This was a big mistake. They missed the mark. Can you help me to find some logic in what this fan is saying about Matt Ryan and this organization being tone deaf?
Oh, here we go. Okay. So we're talking about, and I'm going by not this particular individual, but it sounds this eerily the same, but what everyone's sentiments is that we didn't do it for the culture. Okay, well, everyone always asks the question, what's the culture? And no one can seem to give an answer. Okay, let's pull out the political correctness and just call it what it is. Okay, he didn't do it because it's not fitting the black folks in this city. The black folks don't like it. The black folks are not entertained. So it don't work for us. That's what the guy's saying. Okay. Let's keep it a buck, y'all. Listen, it's been going on too long in this fan base. Way too long. Even when Matt Ryan was quarterback, everyone was skating around what it really was, and it was like, well, he's not good. But why is that he comes in day one and you don't like him? It's something besides the fact that he went to Boston College. Okay, let's keep it real. We knew what it was, but again, no one wants to say it out loud.
Yeah.
We're gonna say it out loud. We're gonna say it out loud. He's not entertaining enough.
And I understand that, and I get it. It's just like I said, it goes back to what we said at the top of the show, Banks. My concern is winning, man. My concern is bringing the championship to this city.
Listen, a lot of people in this city would rather be entertained than win. And we all know that. Listen, you got people talking about Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders because of this hire. I can give a fat rat's butt about that. Okay. I don't care about what Shedeur happened to Shedeur. He didn't get drafted and he's the reason why he played later on. I don't care. My biggest issue with Stefanski is his whole track record overall. His 8 wins in 2 years, where our last coach had 8 wins in 1 year. Make sense. That was my issue. But everyone wants to bring up Shedeur and Deion, and it's like, I don't care what Deion is doing. I don't care what Shedeur is doing. And it's going to always be that underlining of our favorite athletes that doesn't play for the Falcons. You can't do wrong by them. And I don't understand that. And that makes me angry with this fan base because it's always we doing somebody else wrong.
Well,
And
and that's another conversation, Banks, that I want to bring up. It's not going to be tonight for this podcast because a lot of people, like you said, put Deion on this pedestal. We're going to have a nice conversation. We get Derrico back in here to talk about Deion Sanders and his legacy here in Atlanta and how and when he left the organization and how that all transpired and how that, because a lot of people really don't understand that dynamic of it either. We'll break that down. It's funny that you mentioned Deion, but I think we'll have a podcast devoted into talking about some of these things. And yes, obviously, when you start talking about black and white as it is, and talking about culturally this fan base and quote unquote the facade and what they need to do in Chocolate City, yeah, there's some type of delusion that things need to go a certain way for this fan base. And we're telling you people as fans of this team that we want to see this team win championships, man. And that's really all that matters. And it comes down to at the end of the day, I'll be happy with us being a successful franchise and winning championships. Banks, we are at the mark here, man. It's been a good one. It's been a good show, man. To say the least, we'll have more to say, obviously, and talk about this hiring and as they bring on the staff, and also when we bring on the GM here in just a moment as well. Before I give it over to you, Banks, here, man, click on that QR code, man. Eastland's Woodworking Company, man. Hit our boy up, man, and get him some business, man, and get you some stuff. Banks, let everybody know where they can find you at, my brother.
yes, yes, yes. Before I do that, I want to give a shout out to this right here. This is gonna be the absolute last time you see me wear this jersey since we are rebranding, and I wanted to go ahead and send it off in a farewell with the ATL jerseys that I hope I never want to see again in life. Um, and of course, I got my Scully on because we didn't do a fit check. But yeah, I'm just going to prepare y'all. Y'all hit those grocery stores because it's gonna snow this weekend. So y'all better get ready for it because I'm getting prepared because they talking about some power outages and stuff like that. But anyway, you can find me at Antoine Jarrell Banks on Facebook. And you may see me at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in a couple of weeks when the United start kicking the ball off. See, I surprised you there, Leo. Yeah, I'm gonna be in a lot of those matches coming up. So yes, that's where you can find me at, sir.
Okay. Obviously, man, y'all can find Banks back at Mercedes-Benz coming up here in a couple of weeks. Atlanta United coming up, man. We got to get with our boy Reggie, man, see if he can come on and give us a preview of this Atlanta United MLS season is going to kick off, man, and also talk a little bit of international football, man. Just had a couple of things went down, man. AFCON, I'm not for sure. I'm not going to go too far off, man. We just had AFCON that just passed, man. Shout out Senegal for doing the damn thing with that, man. But yeah, you can find me also everywhere on social media. You can find us ATL3 Style on all your social media outlets. That's what we go. We appreciate everybody for tuning in with us live tonight, man. And we'll come back with another show. Hopefully our brother Derrico will be with us and we'll go a little more into depth. Hopefully we'll have some more information about the Atlanta Falcons. Also, we haven't forgot about the Hawks. Some stuff we need to talk about with the Hawks over there. And we'll also talk about, because spring training is right around the corner on our Atlanta Braves. So we'll get into a little bit of that as well. This has been another edition of the ATL 3 Style Podcast.